Year 65 after Christ. Rome still smells of ashes. The great fire left open wounds, and over them the emperor tries to paint a portrait of glory. His name is Nero, Claudius Caesar, the last of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. A man who wanted to be an artist, but ruled as a god. And at his side there was a woman, Poppaea Sabina, beautiful, ambitious. Rome knew her as empress, but Nero knew her as obsession. When she died, Rome wept in procession. But Nero's weeping was deeper, more insane, because Nero did not accept death, did not accept absence, did not accept that Sabina would be only a memory. He decided to bring her back. And for that, he did not raise temples. He did not pray to gods. He chose a living body, a young slave with delicate features, a face steel in formation. His name was Sporus, and the resemblance was enough. Imagine being so powerful that you believe you can rewrite death. Nero did not ask the gods to return Poppaea. He looked at a slave and said, "You will be her." That was the power of an emperor, the power to steal even your identity. Welcome to the channel. Get ready, sit down, and listen. What you are about to hear is not a legend, nor an invented tale. It is history. And if stories like this give you chills, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because here, we will always dive into lives you never wanted to live. You had heard of it. Every slave had. In the streets, in taverns, in the kitchens of masters, in the whispers of drunken soldiers. A name ran like wind between columns. Poppaea Sabina. They said the funeral had been a spectacle Rome would never forget. The entire city covered in incense. The streets overflowing with gold, flowers, tears. Some swore that even the sky had darkened earlier, as if night itself had descended to bow before the body of an empress. You saw none of it. You were just a young slave, lost among many. 16 years old, an age when you are neither child nor adult, when you carry no sword and awaken no compassion. But you heard. One always hears. Because in Rome, the walls are thin and mouths are wide. And every mouth said something different. Some said Sabina died pregnant, in silence, as a victim of fate. Others, that Nero, in a fit of rage, struck her down with a kick, crushing in her the life of two. The truth. No one dared to write it, but everyone dared to repeat it. Sabina was dead, and Nero was empty. You remember the day you saw him for the first time. The market boiled with voices and heat. The cries of merchants, the stench of fish rotting in the sun, fruit spoiling, sweat dripping from bodies, offered for sale, and then silence. Not silence from everyone, but from those who mattered. A procession of guards opened the way. Zaea shiftetto, and he appeared. Nero Castrated. You didn't know where to look. You only knew you should not look directly at him. The emperor was the sun. To look straight at him was blindness or death. But he looked at you, yet he did not see you. He looked at your face, your chin, your mouth, and for an instant, time stopped. He was not seeing a young slave. He was seeing her. The air grew heavy. You didn't know what to do with your hands, your eyes, your own body, until he raised his hand and murmured, "Lo, but cutting through the silence like a sword. Sabina. Nero's silence weighed more than words. He did not ask your name, did not ask who you were. He only said, Sabina. And in that instant, everything you had ever been ceased to exist. Guards approached, because for Nero, everything already belonged to him. There was no negotiation, no price. They carried you as if you were a rare statue torn from a temple, and the palace doors closed behind you. The air shifted again. The smell of incense, burning oil, cold marble. Even footsteps were different. No one ran. Everyone glided, as if the very ground punished those who dared to hasten life. Before seeing Nero again, you saw his objects, delicate fabrics. Golden bracelets still holding the warmth of another wrist. A comb with strands of hair that were no longer there. Perfumes kept like relics. And then you understood. They had not brought you there for yourself. They had brought the body that could sustain a memory. A servant, a gaze hard, whispered as she adjusted a fabric on your shoulders. To him, you are not you. You are what he lost. At night, when the Emperor entered the chamber, you were no longer yourself. The fabric draped over your shoulders. The perfume clung to your skin, and the mirror gave back a strange face. Nero did not look into your eyes. He looked at your mouth. He looked at your chin, and he touched your face with the delicacy of someone fitting a mask onto a cracked statue. Sabina. He repeated, and the word fell like a sentence. You wanted to answer, I am not her, but you did not. Because in Rome, even silence was a language. And in that instant, you learned to speak by keeping quiet. Imagine, to be chosen not for what you are, but for what you resemble. You were not seen. You were erased. And in your place, a ghost was planted. The palace had eyes, but no mercy. Every corridor whispered, every servant knew. And it was in the murmurs that you heard that word, change. They did not explain. They did not need to. In Rome, the softest words hid the sharpest blades. They led you into a room of cold stone. The air smelled of burning herbs, of spilled oil. An old physician did not meet your eyes. His assistants said nothing, only held you as one holds wood meant to be carved. And then, silence. When you awoke, it was not pain that remained. It was absence, not blood, but emptiness. You did not feel as if you had survived a surgery. You felt as though an entire path of your life had been stolen, as if the road had been erased before you had the chance to walk it. The next morning, delicate clothes were brought, fabric that burned against the skin, jewels that shone more brightly than you could bear, perfumes too sweet as if to bury your own scent. The mirror gave back a disciplined face, smoothed, perfected, a face that was not yours. And then came the news. There would be a ceremony. Not secret, public. All of Rome would see. You were prepared like a bride, hair combed in silence, sandals adjusted with care, your body dressed in garments that did not belong to you. The day arrived. The streets filled. The palace opened, and Nero married you. Before senators, generals, priests, and servants. Before the very city itself. The most powerful man in the world declared, Poppaea Sabina has returned. The crowd applauded as if watching a spectacle. But everyone knew. You knew. That was not Poppaea. It was a boy torn from himself, dressed as the wife of the most powerful man on earth. The grandest wedding in Rome was also the cruelest lie in its history. The nights that followed were long. Banquets. It's music. Nero plucking the lyre, reciting verses of eternal love, of life conquering death. But when he looked at you, he never saw you. He saw her. You became the embodied memory of the dead. You were not loved. You were used as a mirror. Every gesture of yours was not yours, it was hers. The servants taught you. Poppaea smiled. Like this. Poppaea walked this way. Poppaea kept her gaze suspended, never resting on anyone. You repeated it, like an actor rehearsing an impossible role. But Rome always speaks, and with each repetition, your inner voice faded more. In the palace, no one dared laugh. The streets whispered, "He's just a boy. He's a living corpse." He's Rome turned into farce. You learned to smile, not because you wished to, but because it was the safest gesture. The smile became your mask, and behind it, only silence. At times, Nero wept. He did not weep for you. He wept for her. His body trembled, and his tears fell upon your skin as if they were water trying to revive a dead plant. Night after night, you learned that a man's love can be more cruel than his hatred. And so you were crowned as Sabina, false empress, true ghost. Crowned not for who you were, but for what you resembled. And while the banquets multiplied and Rome applauded the theater, within you grew a shame that was not only yours, it was of an entire life that was never lived. Rome is not eternal, not even when it insists on pretending it is. The banquets came, emptier each time. The glances of senators came, feigning respect, while whispering in secret. The coins came, stamped with faces that no longer existed. The false applause came for a false marriage. And then came the fall. The empire trembled like a cracked wall. The people grew weary. The Senate armed itself. The provinces rebelled. And the eternal city roared against its own emperor, Nero. The one who had made you a living shadow was hunted like an animal. And when the net closed in, he did not resist. He placed the blade against himself and murmured, in his final vanity, "The world loses an artist." But you did not die with him. You remained in the palace. The silence was heavier than music. The same corridors that once echoed with Nero's voice now returned only the hurried footsteps of new masters. You, who had been crowned Sabina, were no longer an empress. You were only what you had always been, a body without an owner, ready to be claimed. And so you were. First came Otho, another man who once loved Poppaea, Sabina, and when he received you, he did not see a youth, but still the shadow of the dead woman he desired. You became once again a portretto, a memory, a ghost. But Otho lasted little. Rome devours its own rulers, and when he fell, you passed from hand to hand, like a jewel without shine, like the spoils of war. Until you reached If Nero had treated you as a goddess, if Otho had treated you as a memory, Vitalis treated you as an object, bloated with ambition, devourer of flesh and power. He sought neither love nor mourning. He sought spectacle, and he decided you would be his attraction. It was announced among cruel smiles, you would be taken to the arena. Not as a gladiator, not as prey for beasts, but as a living mockery, the final joke of decadent Rome. And in that moment, you understood. Nothing remained of the ghost they had invented. Only shame remained. Of the young Sporus, only a memory. You knew what was coming. You knew the taste of the crowd, how it cried out for blood, for flesh, for humiliation. You knew that the same people who once applauded your false marriage would now applaud your degradation. And so, faced with the spectacle prepared for you, you made the only decision still left to you, not to live shame, but to write your own death. The emperors who had used you were dead, but you were still here, a trophy no one wanted to carry. And when they promised to turn your life into spectacle, you wrote your own death. And for the first time, since Nero had pointed to you, you were free. That is how the story of Sporus ends. Not in triumph, not in glory, but in the emptiness of a stolen life, of a name erased, of an existence that never belonged to itself. Rome went on, because Rome always goes on. But you, who were shadow, mirror, and ghost, left behind an echo that does not fade. Even in the eternal city, there were lives no one ever wished to live.